Here is your magnificent E-flat aeolian alternating drone flute. Um, there's some really, really fun turquoise inlay just all over the front body of the flute, and a beautiful, beautiful inlaying of lapis and turquoise as a kanji symbol in the back, and some rabbit fur skirts along the top and bottom. And the fetish blocks are a sandwich of cedar, maple, and myrtle wood with turquoise. And the mouthpiece is a mahogany, maple, and then redwood cedar topper. And the whole body is a really, really nice, dense piece of redwood cedar. It routed very cleanly, and um, I brought the whole body to 1200 grit, and the finger spacing is very, I'd say, pretty equidistant and relaxed um, for average size hands as well as small and larger too. Pinky hole placement as such, and alternating pipe is G sharp. If you would like, at some point in time, after you get used to the flute, um, we can throw, if you felt like it would add more versatility into the flute for a later date, if you wanted to add in some extra notes. So here on the right side, okay, where your bottom hand is, you can put a thumb hole in the back on the drone pipe, okay? And that will also change this. But it will, if I place it in the right section, you can get the third, the fourth, and the fifth from just the drone pipe alone. So it's a little extra work for your thumb, holding an alternating drone anyway. Being perhaps one of the first drone flutes you might own, it's a very advanced, sort of hold after, you get some uh, nice relaxed just muscles and stuff with the muscle memory. So once your hands are generally getting wrapped around the flute and you're not cramping as much, because it takes a little bit of time to step up and start holding the flute with the proper posture for your own hands, and letting the shape comfort to the way that you need to hold it. So through that, when you're finally at a different part with the instrument and you've gotten a good enough time, playing it and getting used to breath pressure, and making sure that the pads are really sealed when you're, holding it, then we could augment it further if you wanted to, and you can get extra notes out of the thing. So that's just as a heads up, which is cool because it still has, I guess, extra places it can go if you wanted to. But for now, uh, the right pipe, the playing pipe, has really, really relaxed temperament and sensitivity. So you can play with, I'd say a casual, casual to moderate amount of just steady pressure. You don't have to blow extremely hard in it. When you're hitting the upper register notes, you can definitely use a little bit more pressure. You'll hear when they, bend into the green line with your ear. But the high E flat is accessible in two ways, by lifting your top finger and just blowing a little sharper than normal. And so you got your low E flat, all holes closed. Just super, super sweet. It just lights up real fast, which is nice. And then you can overblow, keeping all holes closed. Not that, it's just a really quick pop. It has a lot of good back pressure, so it's very responsive to whatever type of wind you're actually delivering into it, which is really, really favorable and desirable. So that's also cool, and then you can do it that way too. It's a really nice warble there, if you want to use that in your playing as well. And then you've got your standard climb. So you've got your whole scale there, and then your upper register is activated by both options as well. And you can climb a little higher, I think, if you keep them all closed. So you've got about 3 you can whip if you keep them all closed, and then you think you've only got 2 that you can whip if you pop the top finger. So here's your high E flat with some overblow technique. So this one will squeal a smidge, but if you close all of them, and you can actually leak this one for a lot longer than if you had the top finger open trying to overblow. So that's really cool. That can be actually accompanied with the double drone overblow. So that's that was really sweet with it, that I was able to get them to activate like that with each other, because it doesn't happen all the time. It's really difficult to strive for that. So I am really pleased with their responsivity between both pipes, oscillating into upper register and not. The G sharp chordal structure here, when you're overblowing with the top hole open, you can get some really sweet layers. So you've got, let's do the climb. And then, so you can just get a quick whip out of these two really nicely, which is rad. I think if you put them all down and you try to do it, the breath pressure between both pipes is going to be a little bit more of a challenge, but there is some sweet spots in there that I have found that I've really enjoyed, just kind of floating into with the wind delivery in the piece, and it'll all unfurl in your own magical way too, as well. So that's something to just leave yourself a lot of room with this piece to grow into it, because there are a lot of fun perks that it has, as well as just its straight meditative, relaxed, droning tones for long sustained periods. They all oscillate really nicely with each other. And the only other thing I can really suggest is that when you're playing this, the way that I made both pipes, the fipples, and the responsivity of the flute is, if you're playing in a casual breath, let's say in holes 1, 2, 3, I made 4, 5, and 6 just a hair more sensitive, and probably you would say sharp, so that you don't have to put as much air into them to make them float all the way up the scale. And that is something that I've really noticed helps a lot with the overall like scaling up and down with the flute and utilizing one chest's worth of air. And so keying that into the instrument is really nice and fun. It adds some really relaxed precision in your own playing as you start like unraveling the flute. So you'll be able to be more relaxed on it than let's say an instrument that you had to just slam a lot of air into. And this is a pretty casual play, which for being such a bigger flute, it's starting to border, into the bass flute section. It has a really robust, lovely volume, good clarity. There's enough expressivity in there too, so you can hear the wind, but it's just true, like nice tonal floating through the pipes. Your left playing pipe, really good, like the pressure that's getting released in there is excellent for you to be able to actually close it really quick and have the drone pipe actually just start firing again. So that's another really good part about the pinky hole placement is, um, you're going to want to strengthen them pinkies. The pinkies and just pinky and ring finger stuff, aside from thumb hole stuff, in flutes that have more holes, or multi drone flutes, or anything of the like, or longer, transverse style stuff. Using your pinky later on in your playing is super, super, super important. So getting used to activating and like just like having your finger drop down onto the plate and like hold its position and get a good seal on that hole. All that stuff is going to just develop over time. The finger placement is nice and condensed so that you won't have to stretch your hands too far. I really got I'm really happy with that. And the fetish blocks were really super cute, and just came out lovely. And I love the last little topper I put up here. The fur, just like once I put the fur on, and like I was able to put the fetish blocks on, and like I had oiled it and hit it with carnauba wax and buffed it. I mean, this all natural sheen right here is just from the sanding. It's just one, bringing it up, doing a lot of beautiful wet sanding on it, and then of course hitting it with the oil, which makes the grain pop, and then of course just going to town with some carnauba wax and a dry cloth. So for maintenance, I'd say just keep it in a relatively like uh, casual humidity. Like it doesn't have to be like super dry or super super humid, but average room temperature type space, anything that is for between 60 and 75 degrees, like generally all the time, is a safe bet for a flute like this. Like, it's got woods on it that, lots of exotic different pieces. They're all going to, warp and shift and ebb and flow with time and sunlight and air and your moisture and things like that. So I'd say just keep it hydrated with like, some carnauba wax or some walnut oil or linseed oil, grapeseed oil, olive oil even. And you could do that on the inside and the outside, as long as you clean it out and whip it out. Make sure that it doesn't, have any residue left in it. What's it called? There's not many. There's not many just like imperfections in the wood that you need to look out for like the future. It's just I sealed the whole thing, and so there was, when I was working with it, you can see right here, there's this horizontal line, and that is just a standard stress fracture within the knot of that really cool, like where the knot and the grain is, and as it ages, keep an eye on it, but for now it's fully sealed inside and out and should be fine. And I sanded it really really nicely. So I would just say carnauba wax or just a simple oil, whatever you like. It can take it, and it will enjoy being hydrated. Yes, and I am going to just wrap it up like the best I can and ship it out to you in the next day or so. Um, and yeah, if let's say you needed to ever take these off, they're just held on there with your standard like leather glue. And honestly, with the way that this body is, you could, if you ever like needed to remove these for some reason, you're like, oh no, there's like, the leather glue stuff is on the flute body and you want to get it off. I'd say start with 220 grit wet sand paper. So it's wet and dry. They're normally like black sheets. And so start with 220 and then move to 500 and then 1,000 and 1,200. And then you'll get it right back to looking like what it is. And it'll only take like 20 to 30 minutes of just light sanding and then fusing the grain together. If you ever needed to do any random maintenance like that, but hopefully this thing stays super, super pretty and has its luster and stays clean, and, maybe no sort of liquids get and stain the rabbit fur or anything. Even though I think it might look good with maybe a little bit of wine or blood that splashed on it at some point in time. No, just joking. But am I? It's a celebratorial object, so I imagine it'll be around many a good uh, gathering and people, and also like just just really really happy with this, and I'm super glad that you are too. It was a lot of fun making this flute. Thank you for your patience and for commissioning Kyle's Crafts to make you a magical flute. I'm super stoked that you like it, and holler at me if you ever want to do that augmenting on the back of this pipe, and give it some extra notes in the future. Um, and in the meantime, just get used to playing it. And if I didn't hit any of the talking points that I normally tend to talk about when I make these videos, just holler at me in an email, and I'll just shoot you a message back with whatever I missed. So yes, rock on. Super happy, awesome flute. Yay, flutes.